Hello and welcome back to the Artist's Way Creative Workshop. We are discussing recovering a sense of autonomy this week in week 11. And this week, the author says that we're going to be focusing our artistic autonomy and examining the ongoing ways in which we must nurture and accept ourselves as artists. We explore the behaviors that can strengthen our spiritual base and therefore our creative power, and take a special look at the ways in which success must be handled in order that we not sabotage our freedoms. One of the things that she really talks about with getting to that autonomy, our sense of autonomy as an artist, is the acceptance. And it can be the fact of how we not only view ourselves as an artist, but how we validate that view of an artist. The idea here is that the Creator, our God, had made us to be creative. And our creativity is our gift from God, and our use of it is our gift to God. Accepting this bargain is the beginning of true self-acceptance. And by allowing for that to occur, that acceptance to occur, we recognize that the things that we're doing, these exercises that we've been practicing, the time that we spend on the morning pages and in meditation and in creative play is really our time to connect in our relationship and foster our relationship with our Creator. And then allowing then us to listen to our Creator and guide us in our lives is what this whole process is trying to get us to do, in a way that allows us, that's not like a sense of specific responsibility, of obligation, of or being tied to any particular thing that's outside of us. This is our relationship with our God, our spiritual Creator, and this is what we're trying to do to foster that relationship and to grow and to connect. And so by recognizing and accepting that as artists, that we then will grow more typically or get past some of these blocks that we've been talking about and experiencing. The difficulty is that we sometimes will connect, and we've talked about this in the previous chapters, about money and how we view money, and that with our work it's very difficult to separate the concept or the ideas that money validates my credibility as an artist. Like we were talking about, like it has to be great art, it has to be certain art, and then we also sometimes will combine that with that the money that we make from it is somehow then validating our actual creativity, and that's really what's important, and we lose track of what actually is the art that's being done. And so success and how we view success is going to be an essential part of protecting who we are as artists and our inner child, and all the work in progress that we've accomplished so far through these last few weeks in working through this workshop. So the idea here is that we really must learn that as an artist, my creativity, your creativity, everyone around us, so our judgment of ourselves and of others, lies within us and in our God and in the work that we produce. And that work does not have to be a Picasso or the major work, or determined by a certain kind of skill or that we think is necessary. That work is just the work that we're producing, and it can be bad. It can be what we view as maybe not the best scenario, but maybe it's a process that we're going through so that we can improve to produce that big best piece that's in our future. But it won't be done if we don't allow that process to occur. And so defining that success in other ways is the most essential part of us to be able to really break free from some of these other blocks and allow us to really have that autonomy as an artist. And so the spiritual practice that we occur while we are working on these different things allows us to view and to see ourselves differently and not connect, which is not an easy thing to do, because it's easy to kind of really see like, okay, well, if that person is willing to pay us a certain amount, or that is what we see as credible. But sometimes it can be very successful, and it can be that you're producing all these wonderful pieces and they're just not necessarily selling, You're just not necessarily getting everyone to buy at the same price that you thought was important. Or it could be that, or they just don't pay as quickly as you would think they would. And so it can kind of cause people to discount or give up earlier than they really need to. And then it can also cause us then to say, well, we'll get to all of that creative stuff later. We'll start putting off our inner child. We'll start putting off all these things that we've been doing, spending time in these artist states, spending time in our pages, doing all those things that are really important for our growth, our own artistic growth. And we will then start to then say, okay, well, we'll get to that later. But we forget or fail to recognize that putting off our inner child results in an angry and scared inner artist. And it's stifling that artist. And so we need to let that inner artist have quality time, knowing that if I let it do what it wants, it will cooperate with me in doing what I need to do. And sometimes I will just write badly, I will draw badly, I will paint badly, I will perform badly, and I have the right to do that to get to the other side. Creativity is its own reward. And that's what she was really trying to stress in all of this, is that it really is the process and what we're doing, and that is what the reward of itself, and it allows us to connect with our creator, and that the spiritual path is really what we're trying to get here, and allow for that to happen, that blossoming. And that as an artist, my self-respect comes from doing the work itself, one performance at a time, one gig at a time, one painting at a time, one piece that you're working on at a time, and that we can't be always trying to work towards something else, but we always are getting towards that, working on it. But we have to make sure that we commit to doing that and protect that time. One of the things that that she goes into is about sports, and that creativity requires action, and that as part of that action, it must be physical. It is one of the pitfalls of what we see as far as Westerners adopting Eastern meditation techniques, is because we sometimes feel it as dysfunctional, because we get caught up in our minds, and the physical and the action of doing something and the sport of doing it allows us to get outside of our heads. And so what she's saying is that artists really need to find some type of sport that they can enjoy, but gets them out of their heads, either running, swimming, walking, but making it much more active and allowing the mind to process and to work through certain things. Many artists will say, or even other creatives will say, that it's the body and the movement of the body that really allows for the creative process to occur. In fact, here it says, exercise teaches the rewards of process. It teaches the sense of satisfaction over small tasks well done. Though, like here it says, Jenny running extends herself and learns to tap into an unexpected inner resource. Martha would call that power God, but whatever it answers to, exercise seems to call it forth in other circumstances when we mistrust our personal strength. Rather than a scotch or a creative project, when it frustrates us, we learn to move through the difficulty. And so it offers us the sport that we could get into. The movement helps us. And it is easy to get caught up in the mind and find it hard to be able to get outside of the mind and to move and to make it more of an actual movement. And so I think it's one of those where our minds and our bodies are really connected, but we forget that. And that we forget that how we need to foster both. And we need to have balance in both. And that one will support the other. And so, and it is very easy for people to overlook, myself included, of course. I obviously have always had difficulty with some of these particular aspects of things. I think everyone has something they struggle with. And connecting the two has not always been, the work, the stuff that I would do would always put off the physical, because I need other things. I need to get this stuff done. And I'll get to that other part later. I'll put that part off. And so, but realizing that they go together, and how important they are together in their functioning and their healthy functioning instead of a dysfunction, allows us to grow not only as people, mentally, physically, spiritually, but allows us to also grow as an artist and then create that autonomy that we're looking for. One of the last things that she really goes into is about building your artist altar. And I really like this section because it was really interesting, and I thought I wanted to really point it out to you. She goes into how the morning pages are meditation. It's a practice that brings you to your creativity and your creator. In order to stay easily and happily creative, we need to stay spiritually centered. This is easier to do if we allow ourselves centering rituals. It is important that we devise these ourselves from the elements that feel holy and happy to us. And so she says that we really need to make sure we're creating this space. It doesn't have to be anything big. It can be a window seal. It can be a closet. It can just be a nook in your room, a chair, and a little side table. Whatever works for you in your space that you currently have, make that an altar that you can say, I have this area that you can see and acknowledge as this part that this opportunity to create for creativity, and gives you that support that you need. Celebrates the good things on this earth, things like pretty leaves, rocks, candles, sea treasures, and reminds us of our Creator, whatever that might be to you. And then creating these small rituals that we devise ourselves, that we connect and we feel is going to be something that charges us. Anything from burning incense, reading affirmations or writing them, lighting a candle, dancing to drum music, holding a smooth rock and listening to the Gregorian chant. All of these are tactile, physical techniques to reinforce our spiritual growth. And she feels like it's very important for us to create this as an altar to our creative selves. And that to remember that our artist child speaks the language of our soul. And so music, dance, scent, shells, your artist altar to the Creator should be fun to look at and even silly. And remember how much little kids like gaudy stuff and big things and lots of color. Your artist child your inner artist is a child, and so we want to make sure that we're providing that in what we're as a sensory option for us to be able to create this altar for us, and how important it is. So that was one of the things I wanted to say is I think that is a task that we should be doing this week, is to creating that altar for ourselves, finding something that a place, whatever that is, in your home and or office or wherever you feel, both the spaces that you live in and dwell in, and create that area to be able to really allow for creativity and connection with our Creator, and that time to be able to do that and make sure that it's really allowing you to not only to recognize and accept our connection with God and the time that we need to spend with Him, or her, and allow us to be able to really connect between that self-nurturing and self-respect that we need to do for our inner artist, and create that autonomy that we're looking for. And then really look at a couple of things that she did in the tasks this week that I think you should also give a try, is to write down your artist's prayer that we did in week 4 and place it in your wallet and have that available to you all the time, so that you are always looking or have a chance to look at it when you need to. And then also to tape your own voice reading the basic principles that we say on page 3. Choose a favorite essay from this book and tape it as well, and use that tape for your meditation, so you can listen to it while you're at your particular altar, and allow you to really process and think about it and go through that for yourself. And so that was chapter 11, Recovering a Sense of Autonomy. And in a few minutes, we're going to finish part 2 of our dream catchers. We're going to do feathers. So in a few minutes, we'll get started again. Thank you very much. Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of our dream catcher. And last week, everyone left with being able to finish their own pattern. And I wanted to be able to show you what I was able to create with the 3 colors on one side and then on the other. So I really like what I was able to do with the 3 colors. And then I just left the threads that were left from the strings that I had put up before. So I just left them there. And now what it's time to do is for us to do part 2, which is the feathers of our dream catcher. And because I decided to try something a little different by using the yarn for this one, I also am going to try a few things different to try to do the feathers. We're going to do macrame feathers, but we're going to try a couple different versions to be able to make it work for our particular ones here. So what I'm going to have us do is do multiple ones based off of the strings that are left, and we're going to combine them and do a couple different types of macrame patterns using the threads that we have, and then any scrap threads that we may have somewhere else. So if you have any scrap ones that are about 9 to 11 inches long, that's what we'll be able to use for these different feathers. I'm also want you to kind of eyeball where you want your feathers to be placed. I already kind of get an idea here that I'm going to have this string come down, and then I'm going to begin my feather here, and then I might do like different levels based off of what's there and how I want it to look so that they aren't on top of each other as much as they are just hanging from the dream catcher. And so we'll begin with this one on this side over here. I already went ahead and set aside this length here, and I wanted to be able to kind of try a couple different kinds of macrame patterns. And based off of what was there, I also wanted to be able to say, okay, so once you've decided how long or far from the hoop you want to set to begin your feather, that's where you're going to be able to set. Yeah, I just did just a regular knot, and I just tied it down so that you can see that's where I'm going to begin. And then I'm going to try this particular one, which is like a diamond pattern, and we'll do the feather based off of that. But we're first going to, from here, we're going to cut the length of the actual feather. So we're going to have, and I just am eyeballing what I would like to try. There's no particular specific when it comes to these. It's more a matter of using what you have and allowing that process to work. So I'm just eyeballing. I'm going to cut from there, so that's how long I'm going to make at least attempt to make my feather with the strings that are there. And then this scrap I'll use for another feather. And I'll also use from here, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to cut based off of this different color so that I can have multiple colors within my feathers as well. So I'm going to pull these down, and I'm going to again maybe eyeball about a 9 to 11 inches. You are one that needs to have the measurement. You can have your ruler out, but again I'm just eyeballing so I can have my scrap for this particular feather here and available. All right, so now we're going to get started on where this is going to go. I'm going to get this down a little further and move this over so you can see. So I'm beginning here, I made the knot, and then I'm going to start with these strings here. I have 6 pulled out, 6 strings here, so I can make this particular one with the diamond. So you want to make sure that you do have the pattern out, and you have 6 available for this. And I'm just sorting out so you can see how this is going to work. Now on this one, you're going to get one of the scrap. I'm using a different color, and you're going to fold this one in half, and you're going to go to the outermost right first, and we're going to do 2 of the same type of lark's head knot on this side. So we're going to pull this here, the half, just like we did with the hoop last week. You're going to pull both of them through. And you're going to have that be right at the top of that one. You're going to have one there, and you're going to do 2 of them. I want my feather to be multiple tones. I think that'd be pretty in this one. I'm going to do 2 here. And again, pull through, just like that. Pull it up on that one and let that hang. And then you're going to go over to the other side, farthest left, and you're going to do the same thing there. You're going to make 2 knots on that side, going in the other direction. And we're going to do that one here as well. And then those 2 are going to be on the outside. And then we're going to begin to do the beginning of a diamond knot. And then we're going to start with, okay, so then I've decided to tape this down and make it a little bit easier, not only for you to see, but for us to work off of. And hopefully that will help a little bit with this video. We're going to first be able to start with the 2 center cord that are in there. So we're going to be working on the middle, just like we did before. And then we're going to start with going to go working inward. We're going to wrap it around and tie that. And we're going to do that twice. Then we're going to move to in the same direction. We're going to keep going that way to the left. And then we're going to do it again on this side. And then you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to go in the other direction. And you're going to be working towards the center. And then, okay, so I just finished this one side, and we're going to basically be doing the same. We're just going to be moving towards the other, and we're going to continue to go with this knot. And then we're going to work on the middle. Right over left. connect the two. Didn't quite stay. So then you're creating this little diamond shape in the middle. And you can repeat this pattern 2 to 3 times depending on how long and how much cording you have. So, but the next thing we're going to do, we're going to repeat and we're going to add 3 instead of 2. So now we're going to go back to this section, go to the outermost again. And we're going to do the same essential thing that we did before. And we're going to put 3 of them on the side and 3 on the other. And then we're going to repeat that pattern that we did before with the interior knots. Starting with the middle. And we're going to be working our way to the left. Doing the same process of the knotting. 1. And 2, and then again. 1, and 2. And then you're going to go again on the other side, going this direction. So you can see how the patterns are coming together, and then you're going to be able to continue to do that same thing, working your way back from the outside now, moving toward the right. And then from the right, moving towards the center. And then connect the two. And then you can do it one more time, but now again on the outer sides, you're going to add now 4 on each side. Now, I've been using the yarn, and so some of my knots are a little bit harder to see, and it's a little harder to tell than you would with the larger, thicker macrame cording. And so that's why I've been experimenting and eyeballing some of this, because some of it is something that is probably going to be a little bit more different as far as how you're going to view it and how you're going to see yours, depending on the materials that you chose to work with. So I just wanted to make sure that I was stressing that it may not exactly turn out the same way or look the same way based off of the thickness of your cording. And then we'll do 4 on the other side as well, and we'll continue the same pattern. So we continue to build off of that. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to continue to go from the inside out to the right, building that same knotted pattern for this last time at this feather. And then the same scenario with this last one here. And remember, we're using scrap or leftover or the remainder of the screen of the string or cording that you used before, and that way you can tell that it's and then we're going to start again from this side. We're going to keep working in, going back the same way we came. And then we're going to meet in the middle and tie those two together, right over left, finishing the pattern. Of this particular feather. Now what they suggest with this particular pattern is they have templates. They use like a stiffening starch type thing, or you can use any one of those types of materials, but it says to use a comb or a brush, but I'm going to use, they also suggested using a pet brush, and you're just going to brush the threads of it out and just keep, it's going to look funny. It's going to take a little bit to get that nice fuzzy brush out. You just keep brushing that and keep getting that nice feathery look to your material, and may take a few minutes. You can use a comb or a brush, or again a pet brush, and you just keep pulling on it until you get that nice little look that you're looking for with your feathers. And I'm going to keep working on that. It might take a little bit. And then what you're going to do at the end is you're going to get your either a template if you want one, or you're going to just eyeball it into the shape of the feather that you're looking for on your design here. So I'm just pulling it down. I mean, you can keep going over it and getting it to that nice fuzzy look that you want, and then you can just cut it to the shape and size that you want. Okay, so this is the cut that I got. I'm gonna go back over as I get more of the feathers made and be able to see different ones and patterns I want to create, but this is the look of the feather that I created with that nice shape and the nice softness of the feather itself with the different colors. And then we're going to try a couple of different style feathers with the rest of the cording that's here. We're going to move inward, and we're going to try to get this combination here. I'm going to twist them and get to the length that I want. So I'm going to go again, eyeball where I want to start, and I think I'm going to start a little bit sooner, so I'm going to start up here, and then I'm going to create my little knot so that I have a place to start. I'm going to do it that way, and it's just a way for us to be able to use the cords that are there and create that nice little loop. And then what I'm going to do is see, I think I'm going to make this one a little bit longer, so I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to go down, and again I'm going to use the piece here, and I'm going to cut the remainder and use that scrap for the actual pattern here. So we'll continue to go this route, and we'll make another type of feather. With this one, the cording is the middle, and we're going to essentially do the same kind of knot, but we're going to do kind of a one side and then another side. So we're going to go back and forth for the pattern. So we're going to do the same thing here as if this is one cording here in the middle, and then we're going to go the same scenario, and we're going to do the lark's head, but we're going to do it over the entire piece. And then we'll tie it that way. We'll go one direction, and then we'll go the other direction, and we'll just keep doing this all the way down with our feather. We can do multiple colors, we can do the same color. It all depends on what you want for your feather, but that's the style that you're going to be going. And you want to mix it up a little bit and have different colors on this one. So I'm going to do the same thing, but we're just going to keep going, alternating the pattern, going back and forth, and alternating the colors with different colors that's available, and see what we can come up with this sort of nice multi-dimensional design here. As our feathers are going to be beautiful. And then we're going to essentially go all the way down to the end, and we're going to keep doing that pattern, and then we're going to tie at the end, and then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to then use our our brush to be able to brush it out and give it that nice soft feel, and then we'll cut it to the size and shape that we want for our next feather. Remember just to kind of have fun and enjoy the process of making our feathers for our dream catcher. So we're making some progress on this particular feather. We're getting close to the end, and we just continue to do the same pattern all the way to the end, and then we will be able to see like how it's created this nice little shape, and going back and forth gives it a nice combination of look to it when we start to actually do the brushing of the cording. Now, one of the reasons why I decided to choose the dream catcher, because we were trying to, with both of these lessons, we were working on, of course, the, trusting our God and our faith, and developing that relationship and spending time with it, protecting it, but also working on our thoughts and how we view things, our patterns in which we choose to, block ourselves from accomplishing our, really real growth in our lives and our regular lives, our personal lives, our spiritual and our creative lives. So, these types of things are partly both what we are consciously aware of and also what we may dream of and the dreams that we have. And so the idea of the dream catcher kind of came to mind, that this would be a good artist date for all of us to create our own, and to enjoy the pattern process of it, because that's always calming. But also, and of course the fibers, and some people really discover that they like fibers. But then it's also the process of like thinking about how the dream catcher will catch, and it's supposed to capture the negative, and so that you can be at peace, and when you're sleeping, and being able to also being conscious of being able to think about working on those thoughts that are negative and capturing them and keeping them away from your progress, and protecting yourself as you're going through, just your everyday life, but also as we're trying to work on these unblocking and our really protecting our areas in our life that are precious to us, to value and to keep it safe and sacred, so that we can continue to grow. Well, as you can see, we're almost done with this one. I'm going to go and finish off with this, and then I'm going to start brushing. And then just like we did before, once the brushing is complete, then you can use a template if you want. There's a variety of different things out there, like the shape that you want, and then you can use that to help you cut and guide you. The suggestion again is to use a starch or a fabric starch type thing to help your fibers stay a little bit stiffer, and you can do that and apply several different layers of it as well. But you can see that I've created basically the shape and the pattern here for this feather. It's going to be a larger feather, so now I'm going to start working on the brushing and then the shaping, and then we'll have a nice second feather and a different pattern. Then we'll work on another pattern and decide from there how many we're going to do for this particular dream catcher. So now we have ourselves 2 feathers using the different macrame styles. And again, the recommendation is to continue to brush and to do some a starch or way to kind of stiffen it up a little bit. Some people also, in some of the things I looked at, they even use like a backing to give it a little bit more substance. I like the look of more of an airy feather, so I'm kind of leaving it this way. But it's really more a matter of your own aesthetics and what you really prefer in your feathers. So far so good. We'll be working on another pattern and we'll see what that comes to bring. So I have been working on doing some of these other feathers, and as I was going through it, I did basically the same pattern on this one. You can see that. On this one, I just haven't brushed it out yet that I did with this one. The brushing out kind of really made it stretch out a little bit, and I know I had originally said that I was going to not put any backing on it, but I think because I'm using the yarn and it's stretched out, it kind of is giving it not only airy, but there's not enough structure to it. So I'm going to go ahead and work on trying to find some way of backing it a little bit to give it a little bit more structure for my dream catcher. But you're free to do whatever you feel comfortable in doing. Now on the middle here, I want to do just a pattern of knots on the way down, and I want to have it be even where I have 3 feathers on one side and 3 on the other. So for me, I think that will look a little bit more balanced, and I think I will appreciate that a little bit more. And so in this middle, I'm just going to do essentially a square knot and create a little pattern using that knot. I already started, and I just sort of started in the middle. I started in the middle, and then I worked my way from one side to the other, and then I'm starting again. And then I'll just keep working and creating that pattern, just using a regular square knot as I'm going through. So that would be my middle section. I just wanted to have something that will come dangle down that will give it a little bit more centering for my dream catcher. Now on this side, I am debating on what I want to do, but I wanted to go over at least one other feather or feather option for you so that you can see another way of doing the feathers. So we'll go on this side. We're not gonna do exactly the same 2 matchy, but with these, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to decide to do the same pattern that I would do with the other one. So I'm going to pick 3 here and 3 here. Pull that aside, so I have both colors in this one. But essentially, I'm just going to twist this a little bit so it has more of that kind of rope look to it. And then I am going to essentially cut right about, I believe I'm going to go right about here so I can have some more scrap to work with on this one. And what I want to show you is another way of doing the same essential knots, but we're going to do two of them together. So we're going to do the same and put it in half, and we're going to go underneath what's going to be this rope here. It's going to be essentially 1, and then you're going to have it lay there. Then you're going to do the same thing. I'll use a different color so you can see the difference. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. go in the opposite direction on top. But then you're going to get the 2 to go through on this side, and you're going to get the 2 to go on the bottom underneath on that side. So then you're joining these 2 knots together. And that's how you're going to do it all the way down. So it's essentially the same way that we did this one. We're just going to do 2 of them together, and it's going to create the pattern that we're looking for in this particular feather. And so you can continue to do that. You can add different colors, you can use the same, you can decide how you want to do that, but essentially you're just going to keep doing the same thing. One underneath and half on one side. You're going to get the other one together and half on the other. You're going to lift through, you're going to go underneath, and then you're going to grab those ends and the other ends, and you're going to just pull through. And then that way, and then just slide it on up on that one and tighten it up as you want to, where you want to, and you give that look for your next feather. And you just go all the way down for as long and how big you want your feather to be. And I want to try to make this a little bit longer, but I will see how much scrap I actually have and to be able to make that happen. So that would be the 3rd feather pattern that we'll be working with this particular one. That way you can decide which way you want to go with either this kind of more of a center pattern with knots. You're going to go with this one with just the knot going either one direction or the other, or you can decide how you want to do that. This was the same one as this, and then this one was the 2 tied together to give it a little bit different pattern as well. So it's really more a matter of how you want to do your feathers. Again, the same thing, you want to brush it out, and then you want to cut it to the size and the shape of the feather that you want. And then you can or decide if you want to use starch or some other stiffening spray for this this material, and then you use your brush to brush it through so you can give it that nice feathery look. And because I'm using yarn, I just realized that it's a little thin to really give it much structure, so I am going to go ahead and put a backing on it. I think I'm going to use some material. I'm kind of debating on how I want to, but I will use this with some starch, and then I'll glue it together so it'll provide a little bit more structure to the feather, so you can see it as it's dangling a little bit clearer. But I am going to be playing with that a little bit as we go. So this is really the purpose of our dream catcher, and I want you to go ahead and continue to work through your dream catcher and come up with what you've decided to do for yours. I can't wait to see pictures, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with for your dream catcher. And I'm just going to put a hook here and then dangle it from the one area in the room, so I can show you when I'm completed, when it all is done, my dream catcher, to be able to help find all of those negative thoughts and capture them so that I can create some peace in my life. Now, the last thing I wanted to say is that for our final activity, our final artist date, it'll be next week. We'll be covering chapter 12, and we'll be going over creating that rediscovering a sense of faith, and really reinforcing all the things that we've talked about. But we're going to do it on a canvas painting. So make sure you get your paints out, whichever way you want to go. If you want to do watercolor, if you want to do acrylic, if you want to do oil, whatever you feel you want to try. But get out your colors, get out your paints, and find a canvas that you feel comfortable with. And I will be putting some canvases on the website so that you can potentially, like we did with the canvas bags, if you're interested, I'll have them available to you, so you at least have some choices if you want. But other than that, we just find what it works for you, and we'll work on our last artist date together. I really appreciate all that you've done to be able to be part of this, and encouraging each other and helping each other feel safe and protected in an environment that allows us to play and have some fun as artists and creatives, and those that have been blocked for a very long time, but to discover some of these things that allow us to not only reconnect with our God and our higher power, but also in reconnecting with our sense of fun and appreciation of the beauty in our lives. And I hope that this is going to be something that would be a nice stepping stone for you in your future, and that you'll come back, because I'll be offering some more workshops throughout at Me Florecita Artshop, and I'll be offering a variety of different ones. May do another type of series with like we did here, but certainly other different workshops with different types of ways to do our artist dates. So until then, I see you next week, and just have fun. Thank you.